So Magnus, you've been world's strongest man, you've won just about every title, but a lot of people don't actually realize you were also Europe's best arm wrestler at one point. So can you tell us the secrets for a layman like me who loves a bit of arm wrestling in the pub, exactly how to do it?
Yeah, this is when it all started 15 years ago. And I think we start by just showing you the basic rules and warming up a bit, and then we go into the details. So the starting position in arm wrestling is very simple. Center of the table, pretty neutral grip, which means that both thumbs should be visible like this.
Okay, your thumb seems to be under your first
finger.
But
the knuckle, the thumb knuckle
like
needs to be visible like this.
Okay.
When it comes to the pad here, you're allowed, after the whistle, you're allowed to move around here, but you always must keep contact with this.
So, okay, I didn't realize that. Right.
On the pub they will disagree with that, but on the contest table you're allowed to do that. And then basically just try to get the opponent down to that with all means that you can.
To that pad there, okay.
Yeah.
How do we warm up to this then?
I think the best to warm up is just by arm wrestling a little bit. And
just pulling back?
Yeah.
It's horrible. His hand's like a bunch of bananas. Okay then, Magnus, can you show us the basic techniques then of how you do it?
Yeah, so we can say there is more or less two basic styles of arm wrestling. And the easiest one to learn and the most common one for the strong guys is what they call in arm wrestling a hook, which means that you go down in a position where you hook your wrist, that's why the name, and just try to, as much as possible, rely to biceps power and more or less pull down the opponent that way.
So you're really opening this up.
Yeah. And this is, for me, the best way to arm wrestle. I think what I can remember at least, never lost a fight that way. The only problem is that you're pretty vulnerable when you're trying to get into the hook. Which leads us into the next technique, which is what they call a top roll. The top roll is a movement where you try to pull away the wrist from the opponent.
So my wrist is going down that way?
Yeah, so if you're trying to arm wrestle me sideways, I will try to put my power either on your fingers like this, and to take control over your wrist like that, or you pull, there's so many different versions of this, but otherwise what you do is they open either from the backside or they're going over like this.
Okay, so for me to do it to you, if I were to try and pull off you, I'd pull up and come around.
Yeah, like that. But all that is maybe a little bit too much to think about in the beginning.
Okay.
So I think we focus on the few simple tricks that you first need to control and that you also can use at the pub later when you're going to steal money from people.
Okay.
And in arm wrestling, of course, bicep and everything is very important, but the most important thing is to have a very strong grip and a very strong forearm. It doesn't matter how massive biceps you have and if you have a weak forearm. So what I usually do is you take a pretty normal grip and then you put back pressure. And what most people, when they take back pressure, they pull back, show it now just to show people.
Yeah.
They pull back like this with the elbow backwards. And if I do that to you, you're still going to feel pretty comfortable. You still feel that you can move. You should try to get the power up instead. So in this case, you just bend your knees a bit and pull up. And now you feel...
my whole elbow's being lifted
you
off
feel like your wrist
is being pulled forward.
Yeah. Because if you can take control of the other guy's wrist, he will lose the fight.
So for me to do it, I would go back and up.
Exactly.
Back and up like that.
But don't open up. Don't open. Keep the distance between your shoulder and your hand the same.
So lock and drop.
Yeah.
Come.
Yeah. But that's a very important thing to do, and don't show it too obvious. Don't show it 10 seconds before the fight's going to start. Ready? Then you push up a little bit.
Right.
Because then you have him. Yeah. It's not cheating, but if you show it, it's like playing poker. If you're going to show everybody you got full house, everybody going to lay down the cards anyway.
Sure.
So before the start, you just pull up a bit, up like that.
Yeah.
And the key is here for you to always keep this position on me like this.
So it's a total
never ever come down here.
Come down there, right? So as soon as I go down like that, I'm weak. I must try and keep a straight wrist.
That's why if you're going to train for arm wrestling, besides from all your average grip training and all that, do a lot of events where you lifting bars or weights this way.
To build these muscles up.
Yeah, because this is usually the strongest, the weakest chain in the link. Yeah. And as I said, if you're strong there, you can take down a much bigger guy than yourself.
Now, what was the hook one? The hook one was that's the one. I remember you first told me that about 10 years ago when I first met you. You hook and pull something like that.
Yeah, you hook in, and from this position, what I try to do, and this is just to try to kill people's technique. Just hook them in, and now we down to more bicep strength.
Right. So just pulling in.
Yeah. So from this position, how can I don't know really exactly. You either attack this way, and from this position, you either pull down the whole way, or you slide a bit forward, as you're allowed on the pad. Yeah, and pull down.
So because we're kind of equal there, really, aren't we?
Yeah. So, and here's the thing, you see, now actually you are leading over me.
Yeah.
Because you are pushing me down here. So the best here for me is just to do this instead, and I'm leading.
You've just dropped yours even lower, haven't you?
Yeah,
You've kind of shoved down into my forearm there.
Yeah.
Like you can easily tell who's in the lead in a hook. Just go into the hook and just, if you straighten your fingers and if your fingers go upwards towards the sky, you're losing, and if your fingers go sideways, you're winning in that position.
I'm winning.
Right there you are. Now if Magnus turns in a little bit,
I got you. Yeah. Now I'm losing. I'm going up the way.
So that's very easy to see where you should be.
So now, then you can combine the two things and do combinations. But we take that after a few fights.
Right. Okay.
So first I'm going to just show you how it feels if you put some pressure on it, and I do a hook. So hook in like that, and then I just pull it down like that, right? Okay. Keeping everything like as one unit.
Right.
First hook you in. Okay. Keep some back pressure here so you can't escape. Keep this tight and just pull it down like that.
Okay.
And the other one would be a top roll, and then I have two ways to attack there. Either one I just do like that and take the whole wrist, and then just do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Or you go from which is a more simple technique, is to go from behind and do like this. Yeah. Which the difference is that the first one I'm attacking up here first, and the second one I'm opening.
Everything you said here seems to be getting first in the attack, though, in arm wrestling. Everything seems to be the first guy. Yeah. But for sure, the most famous arm wrestler in history is you versus MegaMan. and MegaMan, I mean, you might be 6'7" and 155 kilos, but he's the biggest man in history, and for some reason you were able to hold his power. How was that? Because he was, I mean, it was terrifying to watch. And back then you were 40 kilos or 30 kilos lighter.
I was almost 40 kilos lighter, but as soon as I started to put back pressure on, I could feel that he was having a weakness in his wrist. So the only thing I do before the start is I'm just pulling him up a bit, like this. So when the start goes, he's starting to attack strike side.
That's right, he turned his body as well.
So I'm just doing nothing, I'm just holding. So he pulls and pulls, and the more he pulls, I just curl him in more and more, and then after a while we're here. Yeah. Now I have him. And then I just go sideways, and then it goes.
It's really sore in the shoulder, isn't it?
It was never meant to injure him the way it happened, but it gives a lot of side pressure that way.
Any tricks, any cheats? Final thing, any thoughts to what's the biggest, sneakiest thing I can pull off in the pub? Anything I can do?
The sneakiest way to pull off in the pub, especially after a few beers, you would just cheat a bit and slide up high.
Oh, why?
So on me, you just try to slide up as high as you can.
Up to your fingers, so I'm almost crushing your thumb up there.
And then back pressure straight up.
Back pressure straight up. Yeah. And now even you're going to struggle to get me out of there.
It's getting harder and harder, but you won't do that. And then just go backwards, not so much sideways.
Chance.
Yeah. And then trying backwards through the whole fight.
Right, always pulling back. Okay, right.
And not sideways. Actually, arm wrestling should hardly never push sideways so much. More towards you and down. So if you do that, I think you can make at least a few hundred pounds a night. And you still was 30% of that, and I'm happy.
Thank you, Magnus.
All right. Some people train to look pretty. I just train so I can be the strongest man there is. And then again, I'm already pretty.
say Magnus Samuelsson has the greatest arms.
Magnus have the biggest hands.
Arms.
With the big hands. So.